A democracy that's strong, fair, and true depends on you. Introducing onAir, a nonprofit, nonpartisan digital democracy network. It's a hub that connects citizens with their government and with the candidates, the issues, and each other.
Good evening. I am Paul Sullivan. I'll be your host for tonight's US onAir Aircast. Our sponsor tonight is Democracy on Air, a nonpartisan nonprofit that supports the US onAir network of 50 governance and election hubs at us.onair.cc. Our Aircast today will focus on the ongoing conflict in Ukraine. For some more background on this issue, here's a video from CNBC.
Speaking of all of this, that's a live shot of Poland, where the president has arrived after meeting with European and G7 and NATO allies. Our Kayla Tausche is in Brussels with the latest and what we might expect today. Good morning again, Kayla.
Good morning, Carl. President Biden is heading to Rzeszów, Poland, where he is going to be meeting with troops. He's going to be meeting with refugees tomorrow. He's going to be giving a major address and also having a bilateral meeting with Poland's president. The city of Rzeszów is about an hour from the Ukrainian border. It's a major conduit for a lot of the weaponry and equipment that is being delivered to Ukraine. It's a resupply passageway for the forces there. On Air Force One just a few moments ago, as you mentioned, Jake Sullivan, the national security advisor, said NATO allies are in fundamental agreement over how to respond should Russia use weapons of mass destruction, but he described it only as a severe price that Russia would pay without going any further. He did say that U.S. and allies continue negotiations to send anti-ship and anti-air equipment to Ukraine, but it's unclear how soon that equipment could be delivered. He did say that he didn't want to elaborate further on those discussions for fear of destroying some of the efficiency of getting those tools to the Ukrainians. He also said that so far the U.S. still does not see any evidence that China has decided to pursue material support of Russia's effort. That's intelligence that supports the comments that we got from Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen earlier this morning, where she said she does not think it's appropriate to sanction China right now because of any sort of alignment or perceived alignment that it has with Russia and its efforts in Ukraine.
To help us understand more about these events, we have invited Ani Prakash. So Ani, as a question for this video, what do you believe are the implications of this recent trip to Poland is on the current events happening in Russia and Ukraine?
So regarding President Biden's recent visit to Poland, this is a clear signal that NATO and some of its key member countries in the eastern flank are looking to reinvent their organization, more importantly, their strategy towards mitigating some of the implications that have been caused by the Russians since their invasion in Ukraine. So just recently, President Biden had met with the 82nd Airborne Division in Poland, and his recent meeting with his counterparts in Poland, along with his NATO counterparts since the summit yesterday at Brussels, provides a clear signal that NATO has now reunified itself. They have now reinvented the organization as one formidable alliance responsible for countering some of the implications that are being caused by the Russians, and are well prepared and well resilient and well united, needed to counter some of the Russian offensives in order to protect the security in Ukraine as well as their eastern flank.
All right, thank you, Ani. Now I'll open up a discussion to the implication of the recent Ukrainian events on Russia's invasion strategy. Here with us today as part of our panel is Ben Murphy, the on-air director for the state of Arizona. So as a discussion question for the entire panel here, given Russia's lack of success or recent slowdown in Ukraine, what do you think that means for Russia's strategy overall and for Ukraine's strategy overall?
I can start off here. I would imagine from a Russian perspective that it's probably got to be concerning top military officials that they haven't been more successful. I would have imagined that when they were discussing the implications of actually invading Ukraine, I would have to imagine that they would have expected to have an easier time actually securing Ukraine, and I think that that's not what we're currently seeing. I also think, as we've discussed on previous shows, that the reaction from the West was not one that was entirely calculated by the Russian government, and I think that that is something that has really added on to the stresses of their actual invasion into Ukraine. And I just have to imagine that at this point they're trying to do what they can to find other angles or just different things that they can do in their invasion to find more success, because I really don't think that it's going to plan.
Yeah, to add on to Ben's point on Russia's miscalculation of their operation in Ukraine, yes, it seems that Russia has been increasingly frustrated by the lack of efforts and the morality exhibited by their forces, plus the logistical setbacks that their troops had experienced since the start of their invasion in neighboring Ukraine. And it appears that from these frustrations that the Kremlin and Putin and Gerasimov and Shoigu and even the whole Russian defense ministry and the Russian armed forces are experiencing, it shows that the Russians have now shifted their warfighting efforts from just pinpointing their prized location of Kiev and Odessa to rather focusing on the eastern Ukrainian region, specifically Donbass, where their separatists that they have funded since the 2014 conflict they fought and are now engaging in a face-to-face confrontation with the Ukrainians. And now it appears that from this dramatic shift of strategy displayed by the Russians towards controlling Ukraine on instead pinpointing Donbass, it shows that they do want to occupy certain regions or oblasts or even corridors, as well as possible support their separatists in Donbass, just so that they can have a clear angle needed to occupy almost all of eastern Ukraine before they shift their advances towards central and southeastern Ukraine.
Okay, just as one follow-up question for Ani. What do you think Russia's endgame is for the eastern portion of Ukraine?
I think regarding Russia's endgame in eastern Ukraine, I guess my presumption is that I feel that Russia wants to, I would say, use the Donetsk and Luhansk oblasts where the separatists have control and even fund the Kremlin-backed separatists with as much money necessary just so that they can use the Donetsk and Luhansk oblasts as leverage behind attacking the Ukrainians and isolate the Ukrainians from the west. Because as of now, Kiev, just recently, Russian forces have already halted their offensives near the outskirts of Kiev, and just so that they want to pursue their warfighting shift to Donbass. So I feel that Russia's endgame regarding their offensive in Ukraine with regards to Donbass, it shows that the Russians would likely use the separatists as leverage and be able to, let's say, bombard every single corridor that is just adjacent to those oblasts, just so that they can isolate the Ukrainian forces from the west and be able to occupy almost all of the regions encompassing the Donbass Oblast before shifting west towards central and southeastern Ukraine as part of their grand strategies.
Yeah, I think it's a really good terms of seeing the strategy of Ukraine. I think that's really great insight. Thank you both for giving your insight into this Ukraine issue. We'll be going on to our next section. For the GMU community, Democracy on Air is sponsoring a Speak Up for Impact that promotes university competitions to have the most impact on local, state, and federal government and elections via informed civil discussion among university communities and their elected officials. Check out the us.onair.cc hub for more info. Here is one of the submissions.
Hello, Senator Menendez, Senator Booker, and Representative Malinowski. I would like to present a way to improve voting rights in the United States. The United States is often referred to as one of the strongest democracies, but as of late, there have been glaring cracks in the system that many have seen, culminating in the horrendous events of January 6, 2021, which threatened our very democratic institutions. From this, there are steps the United States government should take to strengthen them. One idea are stronger election and voting laws, which protect voters and their rights on Election Day. I think in many state legislators, including New Jersey's, Election Day should be considered a federal holiday, and there should be more polling stations for those who are more likely to vote. These laws would need, and there are also election laws that would need to be repealed, such as having polling stations in districts that skew against them.
That's all, folks, for this evening's Aircast. Thank you again for our participants and for all of your great comments. And thank you at home for watching this live stream, and have a nice evening. Go to us.onair.cc to learn more about today's news, to read articles and commentary, and to view videos and live streams and comment